Alfred Joseph Hitchcock was born in the apartment above his parents' grocer's shop in Leytonstone, East London, England. The family moved again when he was 11 to Stepney, London, and on October 5, 1910, Hitchcock was sent to St. Ignatius College in Stamford Hill, Tottenham, this time to a Jesuit grammar school with a reputation for discipline. He said it was here that he developed a sense of fear. His favorite subject was geography, and he became interested in maps and railway and bus timetables. Hitchcock told his parents that he wanted to be an engineer, and on July 25, 1913, he left St. Ignatius and enrolled in night classes at London County Council School of Engineering and Navigation in Poplar, London. Then on December 12, 1914, his father, who had been suffering from emphysema and kidney disease, died at the age of 52. To support himself and his mother, Hitchcock took a job for 15 shillings a week as a technical clerk at the Henley Telegraph and Cable Company in Bloomfield Street near the London Wall. Hitchcock was too young to enlist when the First World War broke out in July 1914, and when he reached the required age of 18 in 1917, he received a C3 classification. He joined a cadet regiment of the Royal Engineers and took part in theoretical briefings, weekly drills, and exercises. Hitchcock was required to wear puttees. He could never master wrapping them around his legs, and they repeatedly fell down around his ankles. After the war, Hitchcock began dabbling in creative writing. In June 1919, he became a founding editor and business manager of Henley's in-house publication, the Henley Telegraph, to which he submitted several short stories. Henley's promoted him to the advertisement department, where he wrote copy and drew graphics for advertisements for electric cable. He apparently loved the job and would stay late at the office to examine the proofs. While still at Henley's, he read in the trade paper that famous Players Lasky, the production arm of Paramount Pictures, was opening a studio in London, England. They were planning to film The Sorrows of Satan by Mary Corelli, so he produced some drawings for the title cards and sent his work to the studio. They hired him, and in 1919 he began working for Islington Studios as a title card designer. Most of the staff were Americans with strict job specifications, but the English workers were encouraged to try their hand at anything, which meant that Hitchcock gained experience as a co-writer, art director, and production manager on at least 18 silent films. His works there included Number 13 from 1922, and in 1923 he completed Always Tell Your Wife. When Paramount Pictures pulled out of London, England in 1922, Hitchcock was hired as an assistant director by a new firm running in the same location by Michael Balcon, which was later known as Gainsborough Pictures. Hitchcock worked on Woman to Woman in 1923 with the director Graham Cutts, designing the set, writing the script, and producing. He said, "It was really the first film that I had really got my hands onto." The editor on Woman to Woman was Alma Reville, his future wife. In the summer of 1925, Michael Balcon asked Hitchcock to direct The Pleasure Garden, starring Virginia Valley. Although the film was a commercial flop, Michael Balcon liked Hitchcock's work. Balcon asked him to direct a second film, The Mountain Eagle, released in the United States as Fear O' God. The film is, however, lost. On December 2nd, 1926, Hitchcock and Alma Reville married at the Brompton Oratory in South Kensington, London, England. The couple honeymooned in Paris, France, Lake Como, Italy, and St. Moritz, Switzerland, before returning to London, England, to live in a leased apartment in Kensington. In 1928, when they learned that Alma was pregnant, the Hitchcocks purchased Winter's Grace, a Tudor farmhouse set in 11 acres in Surrey, England. Their daughter and only child, Patricia Alma Hitchcock, was born on July 7th that same year. Hitchcock began work on his 10th film, Blackmail, in 1929, when its production company, British International Pictures, converted its Elstree studios to sound. The film was the first British talkie. It followed the first American sound feature film, The Jazz Singer, in 1927. Blackmail began the Hitchcock tradition of using famous landmarks as a backdrop for suspense sequences, with the climax taking place on the dome of the British Museum. It also features one of his longest cameo appearances, which shows him being bothered by a small boy as he reads a book on the London Underground. In 1933, Hitchcock was once again working for Michael Balcon at Gaumont British. His first film for the company, The Man Who Knew Too Much, was a success, and his second, The 39 Steps, was acclaimed in the UK and made Hitchcock a star in the US. Hitchcock released 2 spy thrillers in 1936. Sabotage was loosely based on Joseph Conrad's novel, The Secret Agent, about a woman who discovers that her husband is a terrorist, and Secret Agent, based on two stories in Ashington, or The British Agent, by W. Somerset Maugham. Hitchcock's next major success was The Lady Vanishes in 1938. The film saw Hitchcock receive the 1939 New York Film Critics Circle Award for Best Director, the only time he won an award for his direction. David O. Selznick signed Hitchcock to a 7-year contract beginning in March 1939, and the Hitchcocks moved to Hollywood, California, USA. The working arrangements with David O. Selznick were less than ideal. Selznick suffered from constant financial problems, and Hitchcock was often unhappy about Selznick's creative control over his films. Selznick made only a few films each year, as did fellow independent producer Samuel Goldwyn. Goldwyn had also negotiated with Hitchcock on a possible contract, only to be outbid by Selznick. Hitchcock's second American film was the thriller Foreign Correspondent. It was nominated for Best Picture that year. Hitchcock felt uneasy living and working in Hollywood, California, while his country was fighting a war against Nazi Germany and the Axis powers. His concern resulted in a film that overtly supported the British war effort. Filmed in the first year of the Second World War, it was inspired by the rapid changing events in Europe, as covered by an American newspaper reporter played by Joel McCrea. The film avoided direct references to Nazism, Nazi Germany, and Germans to comply with Hollywood's motion picture production code censorship at the time. Hitchcock's films were diverse during this period, ranging from the 1941 romantic comedy Mr. and Mrs. Smith to Shadow of a Doubt in 1943. Shadow of a Doubt was Hitchcock's personal favorite, but 1941's Suspicion marked Hitchcock's first film as a producer and director. 1942's Saboteur is one of the first of two films that Hitchcock made for Universal Studios during the decade. Hitchcock worked for David Selznick again when he directed Spellbound in 1945, which explores psychoanalysis and features a dream sequence designed by Salvador Dali. The dream sequence, as it appears in the film, is 10 minutes shorter than was originally envisioned because Selznick edited it down. 1946's Notorious followed Spellbound. Notorious features a plot about Nazis, uranium, in South America. His persistent use of uranium as a plot device led to him being briefly placed under surveillance by the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Hitchcock formed an independent production company, Transatlantic Pictures, with his friend Sidney Bernstein. He made two films with Transatlantic, one of which was his first color films. With 1948's Rope, Hitchcock experimented with marshalling suspense in a confined environment, as he had done earlier with Lifeboat. The film appears to have been shot in a single take, but it was actually shot in 10 takes, ranging from 4.5 to 10 minutes each. Some transitions between reels were hidden by having a dark object fill the entire screen for a moment. Hitchcock used those points to hide the cut. I Confess, from 1953, was set in Quebec, Canada, with Montgomery Clift as a Catholic priest. I Confess was followed by three color films starring Grace Kelly, Dial M for Murder, and Rear Window, both in 1954, and 1955's To Catch a Thief. From 1955 to 1965, Hitchcock was the host of a television series, Alfred Hitchcock Presents. With his droll delivery, gallows humor, and iconic image, the series made Hitchcock a celebrity. He directed 18 episodes of the series. It became the Alfred Hitchcock Hour in 1962, and NBC broadcasted the final episode on May 10, 1965. The Wrong Man from 1953 was Hitchcock's final film for Warner Brothers. It's a low-key, black-and-white production based on a real-life case of mistaken identity reported in Life magazine in 1953. Hitchcock's next film, Vertigo, again starred James Stewart. Vertigo is considered a classic, but it attracted some negative reviews and poor box office receipts at the time. Hitchcock followed Vertigo with three more successful films, which are also recognized as amongst his best: North by Northwest in 1959, Psycho in 1960, and The Birds in 1963. 1960's Psycho, arguably Hitchcock's best-known film, based on Robert Bloch's novel Psycho, which was inspired by the case of Ed Gein. The unprecedented violence of the shower scene, the early death of the heroine, and the innocent lives extinguished by the disturbed murderer became the hallmarks of a new horror film genre. The public loved the film, with lines stretching outside cinemas as people had to wait for the next showing. It broke box office records in the United Kingdom, France, throughout South America, the United States, and Canada, and was a moderate success in Australia for a brief period. The film was the most profitable for Hitchcock's career, He personally earned well in excess of $15 million. He subsequently swapped his rights to Psycho and his TV anthology for 150,000 shares of MCA, making him the third largest shareholder and his own boss at Universal Studios, although that did not stop them from interfering with him. Hitchcock had intended to film Marnie, and in 1962 it was announced that Princess Grace Kelly of Monaco would come out of retirement to star in it. When Princess Kelly asked Hitchcock to postpone Marnie until 1963 or 1964, he recruited Evan Hunter, the author of Blackboard Jungle, to develop a screenplay based on a short story, The Birds. He hired Tippi Hedren to play the lead role. He said it was his most technically challenging film yet, using a combination of trained and mechanical birds against a backdrop of wild ones. In June 1962, Princess Grace Kelly of Monaco announced that she had decided against appearing in Marnie. Tippi Hedren had signed an exclusive 7-year, $500 a week contract with Hitchcock in October 1961, and he decided to cast her in the lead role opposite Sean Connery. Failing health reduced Hitchcock's output during the last 2 decades of his life. Rumor has it that Universal Studios forced 2 movies on him, Torn Curtain in 1966 and Topaz in 1969. Both were spy thrillers with Cold War related themes. Both films received mixed reviews. Hitchcock returned to Britain to make Frenzy. After 2 espionage films, the plot marked a return to the murder thriller genre. This time, Hitchcock makes the victim and the villains kindreds, rather than opposites as in Strangers on a Train. In Frenzy, Hitchcock allowed nudity for the first time. 2 scenes show naked women, one of whom is being raped and strangled. Both actresses refused to do the scenes, so models were used instead. Family Plot was Hitchcock's last film. It relates the escapades of Madame Blanche Tyler, played by Barbara Harris. The screenwriter wrote the film with a dark tone, but was pushed to a lighter, more comical tone by Hitchcock. Toward the end of his life, Hitchcock was working on the script for a spy thriller, The Short Night. Despite preliminary work, it was never filmed. Hitchcock's health was declining and he was worried about his wife, who had suffered a stroke. Having refused a knighthood in 1962, Hitchcock was appointed a Knight Commander of the Most Excellent Order of the British Empire in the 1980 New Year's Honours. He was too ill to travel to London, England, so on January 3, 1980, the British Consul General presented him with the papers at Universal Studios. His last public appearance was on March 16, 1980, when he introduced the next year's winners of the American Film Institute Award. He died of kidney failure the following month, on April 29th, in his Bel Air home. His funeral was held at Good Shepherd Catholic Church in Beverly Hills, California, on April 30th, after which his body was cremated. His remains were scattered over the Pacific Ocean on May 10, 1980. In 1985, a new version of Alfred Hitchcock Presents was produced for television, making use of Hitchcock's original introduction in a colorized form, often referred to as The New Alfred Hitchcock Presents. The show ran for only 4 seasons between 1985 and 1986. If you liked the video, please press the like button. If you haven't subscribed, please do so. You can follow me on Twitter and on Instagram, and if you want to financially support the channel, please do so by going over to my Patreon page. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching, and I bid you farewell.